Good morning. Today's class is on CNS tumors. So before we get into the topic proper, let's just brush through the histology. So, the cell or the brain has two things, the gray matter and the white matter, and the predominant cell type is the neurons. So, if you remember your physiology and histology, this neuron is made up of a central, it has a cell body, and it has many root-like processes, which is the dendrites, and a single central long process called as the axon. So, this forms the cell of the CNS, okay? And to support the neurons, you have the glial cells, and there are three types. One is the astrocytes, which is again of two types, the protoplasmic astrocytes and the fibrous astrocytes, and then you have the oligodendrocytes, and the ependymal cells are nothing which line the ventricles. The whole of the ventricular system and the central canal is lined by these ependymal cells. And then you have the macrophage system of the brain, which includes the microglia cells, also called as and also the glitter cells. So these are the various cells which are seen in the CNS, and tumor arising from any of these cells, the neoplasm is named after it. The neoplasm goes after from the cell of origin. Now this is a picture where you can see all these are the neurons, and surrounding all these cells are the glial cells, and the pinkish background of this because of the fibrillar process of the neurons and of the astrocytes. So here again the larger cells are neurons, these are the glial cells, and these are the ependymal cells. Now classification of intracranial tumors. So as I said, it depends from the cell of origin. So tumors from the glial cells, all the three glial cells which I have told you, astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, and the ependymal cells. So tumors from that is referred to as the gliomas. So astrocytoma, oligodendroglioma, ependymoma, and choroid plexus papilloma. So if you remember in the previous class, I had told that the ventricles are lined by a vascular network called as the choroid plexus, and lining epithelium of a tumor arising from its lining epithelium is referred to as the choroid plexus papilloma. So these are the tumors of the glial cells. Tumors of the neurons are classified as neuroblastoma, ganglioneuroblastoma, and ganglioneuroma. So for you at your level, important tumors are the tumors of the glial cells. The gliomas are extremely important. Neuroblastoma has already been dealt in the genetics chapter. So that is again important class. And then the tumors of the neurons, tumors of the neurons and neuroglia is the ganglioglioma. Then poorly differentiated and the embryonal tumors, it includes the medulloblastoma and neuroblastomas and the PNET, primitive neuroectodermal tumors. So these are the embryonal tumors. So today I'll be telling you about medulloblastoma. And arising from the meninges, it includes meningioma and meningeal sarcoma. Then the next class I'll be dealing about the nerve sheath tumors, where I'll be talking about schwannoma, neurofibroma, MPNST, and another intraparenchymal tumors which are relatively rare, like hemangioblastoma, primary CNS lymphoma, and germ cell tumors, and the remaining miscellaneous tumors and tumor-like lesions. Okay, so today in my class I'll be dealing about the glial tumors in detail, and also about the poorly differentiated and the embryonal tumors. And last I'll be finishing up with the tumors of the meninges, and the next class will be on the nerve sheath tumors. So gliomas, as I've already told, tumors from the glial cells, new tumor arising from the glial cells. So if it arises from the astrocytes, it is called as astrocytoma. From the oligodendrocytes, it's called as oligodendroglioma. From the ependymal cells, it's called as ependymoma. And the choroid plexus is called as a choroid plexus papilloma. So now we'll see each of this in detail. So astrocytomas, according to WHO, it is classified into 4 grades, grade 1 to grade 4. And the grade 4 includes glioblastoma multiforme, which has a very poor prognosis. The grade 1 has a better prognosis. So this is the most common type of gliomas. It mostly occurs in the middle life, and it peaks in around the 6th decade. So whenever any tumor you are writing, the first important thing is age of presentation, okay? Because there are certain tumors which occur in elderly, certain in adults, and certain in children, okay? So the age of the patient is very important to help us think what the tumor could be. Second is the location, okay? So in the brain, where is it placed? Whether it's in cerebral hemispheres or in the ventricles, where is it? Because it is very important to know the location, because based on the location the patient will present. So with the symptoms, we can get to know, depending on that, the patient will have a symptomatology. So all this is interrelated, because it's just not that, what in everything we don't go in for biopsy in the brain. So we have to go in first a good history, when we assume what we first to find out what is the age, okay? Second, what is the history, because we know that which location it could be present. Third is do an investigation, the investigations, radiological investigations like a CT or MRI. So after this, next we go in for, even at this point itself, we can diagnose what kind of tumor the patient might be having. And for confirmation, then you can go for a stereotactic brain biopsy, and then you can go in for confirmation, okay? So whenever you're writing on a tumor, especially from the brain, you will CNS tumors, you must write what is the age of presentation, what is the location, what are the common symptoms, then you write about the gross picture, then you write about the microscopic picture, and last about the prognosis of that particular type of tumor. So I'm giving that introduction, so let's start with the astrocytoma. So I've told you it occurs in the late middle life and it peaks at around 6th decade. They usually present in the cerebral hemispheres and occasionally in the spinal cord. In children and young adult, if it is there, the most common type which we see is a pilocytic astrocytoma, and it most commonly arises in the optic nerve, cerebellum and brainstem. So here itself you can see in adult it's a different presentation, in children it is a different presentation. So as I already mentioned, WHO has classified astrocytomas into 4 grades, from good prognosis to bad prognosis. Grade 1 is low grade, and grade 4 is glioblastoma multiforme with a poor prognosis. Now coming to WHO grade 1 astrocytoma. It's also called as a diffuse astrocytoma. It is a low grade tumor and has a very good prognosis. Now based on the histological entities, it is classified into 2 types: juvenile pilocytic astrocytoma and pleomorphic xanthoastrocytoma. So coming to juvenile pilocytic astrocytoma, it occurs in juvenile. So you get a clue from it. It occurs in children and young adults and mostly seen in the cerebellum, third ventricle and optic nerve pathway. Grossly, it is generally a cystic or a solid circumscribed mass, and microscopically it is predominantly composed of fusiform pilocytic astrocytes having long wavy fibrillar processes, okay? So the important thing, because it is a pilocytic, it has long, the fibrillar processes are very typical in a pilocytic astrocytoma. So this is a picture where you can see all this long fibrillary pilocytes, okay? So all these processes. So this is a typical picture of a pilocytic astrocytoma. The other one is a pleomorphic xanthoastrocytoma. Though there is word pleomorphic, histologically it might look, it looks very high-grade tumor, but it generally has a favorable prognosis. That's why it's put under WHO grade 1. So that finishes grade 1. Moving on to grade 2 astrocytomas, again it's a well differentiated. It is also called as a fibrillary astrocytoma, and it occurs during the 3rd and 4th decades of life. So grossly, it is poorly defined gray white tumor. The tumor distorts the underlying brain tissue and merges with the surrounding tissue. So that is how it's grossly it looks like. And histologically, it is composed of well differentiated astrocytes separated by variable amount of fibrillary background of astrocytic processes, okay? So it is more or less a very well differentiated type, okay? And based on which type of astrocytes, it can be classified as 3 types: fibrillary, protoplastic and gematocytic. I'm not getting into details. As long as you know it is a well differentiated astrocytoma and it is based on the type of astrocyte, it is classified as 3 types. The histology of this should do for you. Now coming to grade 3 anaplastic, okay, so it is going in for a poor differentiation. So it evolves from a low grade, that is from grade 1 or grade 2, gets into anaplastic astrocytoma. Grossly, it may not be distinguishable from a low grade astrocytoma. Histologically, features of anaplasia such as hypercellularity, pleomorphism, nuclear hyperchromatism and mitosis will be seen. And another very characteristic feature which we see in the anaplastic astrocytoma is proliferation of the vascular endothelium. So this is very, very important, proliferation of the vascular endothelium, which is seen from grade 3 onwards. So this is a picture of anaplastic astrocytoma. So this is a pictorial representation where we can see there is area of necrosis, and all these are the tumor cells which are extremely moderate to highly pleomorphic cells, and in between you can see all this is the fibrillary network, okay, and this is the blood vessels. So you can see all this dense fibrillary material, pleomorphic cells, and areas of necrosis. And also, which is very important here, is you will see proliferation of the vascular endothelium. So it's difficult to identify in this. I'm just going to follow this picture for you. The last of all is a WHO grade 4 astrocytoma, which is called as a glioblastoma multiforme. It's the most aggressive form of astrocytomas. So grossly it shows a very variegated appearance. So typically any high grade tumors will have a very heterogeneous appearance, okay, or it's called as a variegated appearance, okay. So they will have gray white appearance with some are yellowish and soft because of the necrosis. There'll be areas of hemorrhages. So it's like a all picture. So there'll be cystic areas, hemorrhagic areas, solid areas. So everything mixed together. So that is what is called as a variegated appearance, okay. Benign tumors generally, if you see, it'll have like one homogeneous appearance, like one solid pattern or cystic pattern like that. If it is a mixture of everything, it most commonly represents a high-grade tumor. And its surrounding brain tissue is distorted and infiltrated by the yellow tumor tissue. So here again it shows a lot of aggression. Histologically, what we see is this highly anaplastic and cellular appearance. The cell type shows marked variation consisting of fusiform cells, small poorly differentiated round cells, pleomorphic cells, and many tumor giant cells. Mitosis is quite frequent, okay. The important thing what we see here is there are areas of tumor necrosis surrounded by tumor cells which show pseudopalisading, which is very typical for a GBM or a glioblastoma multiforme. So there will be areas of necrosis, and surrounding that you will see tumor cells arranged one on top of the other, okay. That is what is referred to as the pseudopalisading. And again as I mentioned in the previous anaplastic, microvascular endothelial proliferation is marked. So here is a picture. So all this light pink areas where you see there's no nucleus, this is the area of necrosis, and these are the tumor cells which are arranged like one on top of the other. Again here you can see all these are the tumor cells which appear one on top of the other. This is what is referred to as the pseudopalisading, and this is the central necrotic area, okay. And here you can see the vessels, and here you can see this blue thing, the dark blue one is the proliferation of the endothelium. So vascular endothelial proliferation, tumor necrosis with palisade arrangement of the tumor cells is very classical feature of glioblastoma multiforme, and glioblastoma multiforme is also a frequently asked question for you. Now that finishes the astrocytoma grade 1 to grade 4. Now moving on to the next glial tumor, which is the oligodendroglioma. It most commonly presents in the 3rd to 4th decades of life. It occurs in the cerebral hemispheres, and in the cerebral hemispheres most common in the frontal lobes, or it can also be seen within the ventricles. So when you do an X-ray examination CT, we will see a well-defined mass with numerous small foci of calcification. This is extremely important, okay? A tumor, and if you see a calcification in the CT, always think of oligodendroglioma. And the tumor is generally a slow-growing tumor. So if you see the morphological features, so oligodendroglioma is a well-circumscribed, gray-white gelatinous mass having cystic areas, foci of hemorrhage, and calcification. So on X-ray, on CT, and in gross we will see areas of calcification. So microscopically, the tumor is characterized by uniform cells with round to oval nuclei surrounded by a clear halo of cytoplasm. Okay, this is very important. So there will be a nucleus and there will be a clear halo of cytoplasm. And the tumor tend to cluster around the neuron. So this glial cells, if there's a neuron just around there, they will try to cluster, and that is what is referred to as satellosis. Okay, and again, here there can be varying degree of endothelial cell hyperplasia and foci of calcification, okay. Anaplastic change may occur as in other gliomas. So important thing in this is you should remember the cells will have a round to oval nuclei and surrounded by a clear halo of cytoplasm. The second thing is they will exhibit satellosis, okay. So this is a picture where you can see all these cells, these are other oligodendral tumor cells. So there's a central nucleus surrounded by a clear halo of cytoplasm. So this gives appearance what's called as a fried egg appearance, which is very typical of oligodendrogliomas. Now moving on to the next tumor, ependymoma. So as I told you, ependymal cells is a layer of epithelium lines of ventricles and the central canal of spinal cord. It occurs chiefly in children and young adults, and typically it is seen in the fourth ventricle. Okay, and because ventricles and all this is what is ventricles and the whole central canal consist of cerebrospinal fluid. So they typically present with obstructive hydrocephalus and features associated with obstructive hydrocephalus. So morphologically, if you see, gross ependymoma is a well demarcated tumor, and the complete surgical removal may not be possible because of the close proximity to the vital structures in medulla and pons. And microscopic tumor is composed of uniform epithelial cells, that is the ependymal cells arranging in rosettes. So this term rosettes is very important, very frequently asked in exam and also in vivas. Rosettes. Rosettes are nothing but the tumors will be arranged. Tumor cells are arranged like, there's a central cavity and arranged around it like a flower. So that is what is called as a rosettes. And in the center, you will have the the fibrillary processes of the particular tumor cells will be in the center. So that is what is called as true rosettes. Now in certain cases, they will be around a central empty cavity. Tumor cells are arranged, the central cavity is empty. So those are referred to as pseudo-rosettes. Also in certain cases, we can see they are seen surrounding the vessels. So that is called as the vascular pseudo-rosettes. So in a true rosette, it should have a central glial material. That is, it should have the fibrillary process should form this lumina of the rosettes. So here again you will see ependymal cells forming rosettes and canals and perivascular pseudo-rosettes. It has two variants. I'm not getting into detail: myxopapillary ependymoma and subependymoma. So this is a picture where you can see this is a typical rosette arrangement. So these are all the tumor cells and these are the fibrillary process which is forming the center. So this is a rosette, and this it is an empty center. It's called as a in empty canaliculus it is seen. And in here you can see a vascular pseudo-rosette where it is seen surrounding a tumor cell. Surrounding a vessel. This is a vascular pseudo-rosette. Now coming to the last category in the in the glial tumors, the choroid plexus papilloma. So here again, the papilloma means, papilloma means what? A finger-like projections, okay? So these tumors are derived from the choroid plexus epithelium. They are found in the distribution of the choroid plexus and most commonly seen in children and frequently seen in the lateral ventricles. If they are seen in adults, the fourth ventricle is the most common site. So gross, the tumor projects round papillary masses into the ventricles, and microscopic, the papillary tumor resembling normal choroid plexus with a vascular connective tissue core covered by a single layer of cuboidal epithelium which lies on the basement membrane. So basically from the choroid plexus epithelium you will see finger-like projection lined by the cuboidal epithelium and having a fibrovascular core. So that's a feature of choroid plexus papilloma. So now coming to the poorly differentiated tumors. So we have finished the glial tumors and now we're moving on to the next tumor topic, which is the poorly differentiated and the embryonal tumors. And in this we're going to deal about medulloblastoma, which is a primitive, which is the most common variety of primitive neuroectodermal tumor. So it comprises 24% of childhood brain tumors, and the most common location is in the cerebellum, in the region of cerebellum, just remember that. And medulloblastoma is a highly malignant tumor and it spreads locally as well as to distant sites. So it also gets into the CSF and to the meninges, ventricles, subarachnoid space. So it's basically a very high aggressive tumor. So morphological features: in gross, typically tumor protrudes into the fourth ventricle as a soft grey-white mass or invades the surface of the cerebellum, and microscopically what we will see is a small poorly differentiated cells with ill-defined cytoplasmic process and tendency to be arranged around blood vessels and occasionally form Homer-Wright rosettes. So very important, remember the rosettes, okay? So Homer-Wright rosettes are typically seen in medulloblastoma. So and they will have, so these all come under the category of small blue round cell tumors, okay? There will be small cells, but typical formation here will be the formation of Homer-Wright rosettes, which are nothing, again tumor cells arranged with the central fibrillary tangles. Another characteristic of this tumor is differentiating into the glial and neuronal elements. So this is a primitive tumor, so it can get differentiated into the other higher forms like the glial tumors or the neuronal tumors. So that is about the medulloblastoma. So now let's start about tumor of meningiomas. Okay. So tumor of meninges, again a very important short question for you. So you have to know what are the different types of meningiomas. The most common tumor arising from the pia arachnoid is meningioma, and it contains 20% of intracranial tumors. So which all sites you can see is in the lateral cerebral convexities, falx cerebri, major venous sinuses, and olfactory lobe. And meningiomas are generally solitary, and they have an increased frequency in patients with NF2, that is neurofibromatosis 2. And which age means you will see it around the second to sixth decade of life with a slight female preponderance, and most meningiomas are benign. Morphological features. So grossly, it's a very well circumscribed, solid, spherical mass. Is very firmly attached to the dura and indents the surface of the brain, but never really invades. So this is very important because it's a well circumscribed. This causes pleasure symptoms without actually invading into the brain tissue and causing problems. So that's why most of it are benign tumors. And the cut surface of the tumor is firm and fibrous, sometimes with foci of calcification. So histologically, depending on what kind of cell we see and how it's arrangement, has so many variants: meningothelial, fibrous, transitional, summamatous, angiomatous. I'm not going to tell in detail, but few things which you can remember is the meningothelial variant, the fibrous variant, the transitional variant, and the poor and the this again WHO has, based on the prognosis, it's classified into various grades, and the poor ones are the anaplastic and the rhabdoid variants. But at our level, we are going to just read about three types: meningothelial, fibrous, and the transitional meningiomas. So meningothelial or the syncytial meningioma, in this the tumor cells are solid masses of polygonal cells with poorly differentiated cell membrane. So they typically have a very syncytial appearance, like arranged in sheets. Okay. And another one characteristic feature which you will see here is the tumor cells can also show a whirling pattern. That is like whirl, like rounds, like circles. So the a syncytial pattern and whirling pattern can be seen in a meningothelial meningioma. Okay. And in between these tumor cells, we will find a lot of collagenous stroma is present that divides tumors into irregular lobules. So next we have the fibrous or the fibroblastic meningioma. Here we can see they have a spindle-shaped fibroblastic tumor, and these tumor cells are arranged in a parallel or interlacing bundles. And a whorled pattern and psammoma body. So psammoma bodies are nothing but calcifications. Okay, so round concentric calcifications, which are called as psammoma bodies, and they are also seen. They are more commonly seen in meningothelial, but they are seen in less amount in fibroblastic. And in transition is a mixed meningioma where you have features of meningothelial meningioma and also of fibroblastic meningioma. Okay, so you can have a whirling pattern, you can have syncytial pattern, you can have fibroblast arranged in parallel interlacing fascicles, psammoma bodies. All these can be present in a transition meningioma. And certain degenerative changes like xanthomatous and myxomatic degeneration can also be seen in a transitional variant. So other types have there, and the big list I've given you. So many are there. The other variants are angioblastic and anaplastic meningioma. So this is a gross picture where we can see a well circumscribed tumor. Here again you see this is a brain parenchyma. This is a normal thing, and this tumor is quite big, but it is solitary and it is well circumscribed. It's not invading or infiltrating into the brain parenchyma. That's an example for gross picture meningioma. And in microscopy, we can see that these polygonal cells, the big ones, these are the syncytial tumor cells, and here the more elongated one are the fibroblastic tumor cells, and you can see it is arranged in a whirling pattern, like round. So this is a whirling pattern of the tumor cells, and these bluish areas which we see, concentric bluish areas, are nothing but the calcifications or psammoma bodies. So that finishes meningioma in brief. The last of all, just for completion's sake, primary CNS lymphoma, most commonly seen in patients with AIDS or other immunocompromised conditions. They occurs in men and the fifth decade of life, and they have a very poor prognosis. They most commonly located in the periventricular location, and microscopically the tumor cell grows around blood vessels. That is, it has a angiocentric growth pattern. So they'll have this lymphoma will be seen around the blood vessels. Okay, and generally they are diffuse large cell type with high mitotic activity. Okay, and they generally carry a very poor prognosis. So that's in brief about the various CNS tumors. What I would first, what important things you should remember from the class is the classification. Okay, so classification of the CNS tumor is extremely important. The astrocytomas, and then a note on meningiomas. Okay, so what are the various type of astrocytomas, the WHO grading, and definitely you cannot miss the meningiomas. And in the next class, I'll be talking about the nerve sheath tumors. That's all for the class. Thank you.